Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels, and I cannot even hold myself back today because you know what? If you've ever wanted to know how to construct your own roadmap to finding 5 freedoms in your life, then this is absolutely the conversation that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. I'm telling you, this is what you're going to want to do in today's episode, in today's conversation, because today's guest not only is currently the managing partner for Quattro Capital, he's also a full-time W-2 employee at a Big Four firm. He is also and was active in the military. He still has some things going on there now with the military that he'll tell us about. And guess what? If that wasn't enough, he is also a police officer, an active police officer. Yes, I did just tell you 4 different things that he's doing. And that's why I'm so excited about getting into today's conversation, because this is awesome. Also, he's done over 300 acquisitions and dispositions over 17-year career in terms of real estate investing. And love this, father, husband, and he's traveled around the world to over 80 countries. I love it. I love it. And so today's guest is none other than Maurice Philogène. Maurice, welcome to the show, man.
What is happening, Mr. Billy Keels?
Do you see the smile?
Yeah, well, bro, like it's reflected right back to you, man. I'm just happy to be in your presence.
Yeah, I'm going to highly recommend that whoever is listening, and I know you like listening and being on your treadmill and cooking and all that stuff, you're going to want to watch this one, because this one is just it's just fun. There's just a lot of loving energy in this one. So, Maurice, here's a couple of things, man. I mean, sure. Everybody that comes to the show, the conversation, ask everybody the same 2 questions in the beginning and finish up with 3 questions. But in between, You can pretty much go wherever it's going to go. And I'm sure this was going to go all over the place in a positive way. But first thing is, help us to understand where you are based in the United States.
Yeah, so I am good to be here, Billy. So I'm based in the Washington, D.C. area. I live in Southern Maryland, but I'm probably about 1 mile north of the D.C. border. So it's just easier to say Washington, D.C.
All right, perfect. So East Coast of the United States and D.C. And so thanks for helping us get an idea as to where you are in the U.S. And then the second thing is, what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours, man?
Man, the most positive thing. You know what? Boom, I'm going to tell you. If you're not watching, I'm holding up the book, Master Key to Riches by Napoleon Hill. The most maybe a little bit more than 24 hours, but this past weekend I took a Maurice break and went to Florida, and I needed to recharge. And I was rereading this book. And one of the 12 keys to riches in life is a positive mental attitude. Because and I'm literally looking at the book, right? If your a positive mental attitude is important because it literally converts your brain into an electromagnet. And it just brings positive energy and positive things to you. I think when we grind, or whatever we want to call it, business life, family life, it can get to a point where you feel like everything is down on you. But if you look at it from a positive perspective, then you realize how lucky you are. And because I was reading that book, my mindset shifted into a place of gratitude, even though I'm going through a lot from a business and family perspective. So rereading that book really helped me self-center.
I love that, man. To be able to self-center, being able to have your time away and being able to have words that remind you of the importance of demonstrating your gratitude. So thank you for sharing that with us. And you know what, look, man, I gave kind of a really high level. I was all excited telling everybody what's going on. So listen, I kind of gave the highlights, but help us to understand more about your backstory, some of the different decisions that you've made that have helped you to get to this point in your journey.
Yep. Okay. So I'm based in DC, but I was born in New York, raised in Boston, came down to the DC area for University of Virginia, where I graduated back in '97. It's been a while now. My family is an immigrant family. We come from Haiti. So my brother and I were first generation born here in the States. I'm a native French speaker, native Haitian speaker. So that's kind of like the image that I'm coming from. But from I think where you were getting at is from a professional and maybe lifestyle perspective.
Yep.
I have always worked for Accenture, which is one of the big four consulting firms. I don't know how many consulting firms there are anymore, but one of the big consulting firms. And I've been there. I'm in my 24th year now, and it's something I'm extremely proud of. I became a real estate investor in 2002, and that came from the fact that I bought a place to live. It just so happened to be at the beginning of the real estate boom in the 2000s. I made $30,000 in equity in a 3-month period. Asked my father about it, went to the library, no Google back then, and read 10 books in one sitting. And then by the end of the year, I had bought 10 more. That started my real estate journey. And it was never, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it. It was never a money thing. It was once I figured that out and figured out financial freedom, if you will, it was, how do I have the maximum amount of time freedom to be able to live that I want in the future. The other 2 or 3 things is I was always in the military because I was an ROTC scholarship recipient going to school. So I served as a federal agent in the U.S. Air Force. So the equivalent of the TV show NCIS, every military organization has its own federal agency, and mine was the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. So I ran field offices all over the world doing counterintelligence and federal law enforcement investigations and some other things. I became a police officer in my local community in 2008 because I wanted to give back to the local community. I'm part owner in a bunch of different restaurants. And then, of course, the travel thing, which you alluded to. It is really important for me to travel. That's how I continue to have a beginner's mindset and experience the world and not get stuck in the rat race or the hamster wheel of, if you will, of just pressing repeat every day. So that is my 60-second or maybe 120-second version of what I have done and who I am.
Love that, man. And yeah, so, a bunch of different ways I kind of want to take this conversation. And I'm just thinking about, what does everybody else want to hear? And you just said something that I think is pretty amazing. You gave us all these different things that you have done and are currently doing simultaneously.
Yeah.
And you also, because that really shows a lot of experience and a lot of having lived life. At the same time, you juxtapose that with a powerful word or 2 words, which was beginner's mindset. Like, where in the world does that come from? Like, to want to have a focus that you have all this experience and at the same time, you want to focus on making sure you have a beginner's mindset.
I don't, you know what, man? Two life events happened very early for me that still stick out. One, my father sent me to Paris with a exchange student that stayed with me the year prior when I was 15 years old. And when I got there, his dad put us in an old 83 Range Rover and drove us around France. And as a 15-year-old kid from the inner city who was doing knucklehead stuff, I was exposed to French funerals, weddings, castles, amazing people, wine, great food, culture, all those types of things. And it totally opened my mind to the fact that the world is a lot bigger than where we come from, culturally, and things that you might want to do. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, when I fell kind of backwards, or fell forward, I should say, into real estate in my early 20s, I had to go learn about it. I have been self-educating myself about real estate and freedom, and we can talk about that, but real estate and freedom since my early 20s. And I have just recognized that there is always something more to learn. And I didn't want it. And because I was in the military and doing other things and experiencing the world, I didn't want to be pigeonholed in one thing. I want constant learning for the rest of my life. That, to me, constant learning is the key to having a good life. And somewhere along the line, I picked up the phrase beginner's mindset. I'm not totally sure where I picked it up, but if we can have a beginner's mindset to everything that we do, then we're never just resting on our laurels of what we've already learned. That's why I like interacting with people like you because I get to learn new things all the time.
Yeah, I love that, man. And so to be able to go back and see that really came from two different life events at different points in your time in your life. And I think, I think we've talked about this in the past, that I also have a very special connection with France, with Paris, back in 2001. It was supposed to be a 1-year sabbatical, and it's now completely changed the trajectory of my life. There are 3 different countries, marriage, kids, and, it's been phenomenal. So when you have that as one of your life experiences, and then the other is really having that opportunity to understand more about real estate and being involved and really wanting to learn and go through that, I think is phenomenal. So talk to us a little bit about, I think, because a lot of people were like, man, how's this guy doing all this stuff? And he's building a real estate business. So, sure. There's a number of different things that come up, but how are you actually doing all these things?
How am I doing it all?
Yeah. I mean, how are you doing? Cause like I've got a full-time job. I'm a dad. I've got a bunch of different things going on. And at the same time, I'm building my own business, right? We have that.
Yeah.
And you've done that times 2.
Yeah.
so talk to us about, what's the secret, man?
Dude, it's been interesting. I think one of the secrets is creating time. And then also organizing your careers in such a way that they don't impact each other. So to be clear, I've always been an executive at Accenture. It has been a base for me for a very long time. I still enjoy it. I don't necessarily need to be there anymore, but I really like the fact that I get to help people or help agencies that help people. For example, I have no problem with private companies. I just prefer to be supporting an organization that is doing something specific for citizens or something like that. So my particular customer manages public lands in the United States, and families from the US get to benefit from that. So I really love that. So I've always been there. The reserve, when I graduated from college, I had a choice of going active duty in the military or going in the reserves. At the time, a second lieutenant in the military was making $24,000. Accenture offered me $40,000. I mean, it wasn't a big decision there, but because I was in the reserves, I had the ability to kind of punch out from one career to another. So when I had to go on active duty for the Air Force, I would pause the consulting world and vice versa, and jump back and forth many times. There's been times when I've been full bore on the corporate side, but will step out for 2 weeks because I need to go take care of something on the military side. So that happened. But I think the rest of it, the real estate and closing on apartment complexes and the restaurants and even the police work that I do has been because I have found ways to create time where, let's just say, I don't think society kind of teaches us to, right? So you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier. I am more than willing to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. If you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you have 4 to 8 a.m. That's 4 hours a day. If you do it 5 days a week, it's 20 hours. That is 80 hours for the month. That's 960 hours for the year. I've literally created almost a third of a year, or no, 2/3 of a year by getting up a little bit early. And that's how I created the side hustle, if you will, with real estate, but it has become almost the full-time hustle at this point. It really is they're pretty much equal at this point. But that's the thing. If you and we talked about, you mentioned the 5 freedoms. If you have a purpose, you know why it was so easy for me to do all that? Because I had a purpose to it. And because I wanted to be part of the local community, because I wanted to secure my financial freedom, because I wanted to create legacy, and because I did not want to be beholden to a corporate entity for any reason, it was very easy to get up and do those things. So maybe sounds easier in words than it actually is, but in general, that's kind of how it all manifested itself.
So I love that you break that down for us, right? Because you've just shown us how you can create 960 hours. And I think there's in a year, right? And only in a year. And so when you think about, you've been doing that for 20 years, going on 20 years, how much additional time have you dedicated to creating something, right? And I think a lot of times people are like, well, how can you do this and how can you do that? You just gave us a real clear cut example. And the other question is, how many people are willing to do that work, right? Because you have to also, I think what a lot of times we forget is that you see it as really being purpose driven. Some people would say that that's sacrifice. I guess it just depends on how you look at it. Because at the end of the day, you're getting the result that you really want to have and making the impact that you really want to make.
Sure. I don't know. Sacrifice. I don't think you're sacrificing to have the type of lifestyle that you want. That's not sacrifice. That's work.
Completely agree.
That's work. But the other thing I'll say, because I know a lot of the listenership is somewhat touches the corporate world and stuff like that. Billy, I made a conscious decision not to compete in the corporate world. I made a conscious decision not to go after the next title. I made a conscious decision not to go to all the networking events, not to take on 2 and 3 additional duties per se within my primary employer. It's not that I didn't want to excel where I work today. It's that I needed that time to do other things for my life, because all of these things that we're doing, like, people are confusing that work is your life. It can be if that work is your purpose. But for the majority of us, the W-2 is such that you can get money so you can go live your life extremely well. But if that job is giving you the W-2 money, which is great, but if it is stealing all this time away from the rest of your life, that's problematic. We only have 28,000 days in our life, assuming we live to 80. And I have a chart where I know the amount of days in general I have left on this beautiful planet. So I want to use it my way. So I left I'm competing with my peer stuff long time ago.
Yeah. And I think that's it's a difficult thing for a lot of people that are in that corporate race, right? Because I used to be that guy. Like, I was the one who wanted to go all the way to the top, and I wanted to do all these kind of different things. And I think at the end of the day, what our employers are looking for is, what result are you able to provide? I mean, if you can provide the result the outcome, that's exactly it. Like, if you can provide that outcome in whatever amount of time or whatever, then number one, it probably puts you in a better position to have the type of conversations that you're talking about. And number two, you have to make sure that you have the gumption to actually go out and have the conversation, right? Because sometimes that can be a pretty intimidating thing for people that are like, hey, look, I know I should be doing this, but I'm giving you the results, and I want to be able to really enjoy the time with my life and my wife, my kids, and all that other kind of stuff. That's right. I mean, have you? That's right. So did you? Because you've obviously had those kinds of conversations, but and I'm just talking off the top of the head, but is that? Would you say that that's pretty consistent with other feedback that you maybe received from people, or that come to you asking you for questions, tips, and stuff like that as to how to have that conversation? I got it from Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Workweek. I have learned to ask better questions. I did not ask my employer, hey, how do I go back to grad school to play football when I wanted to? I said, listen, I'm going to go back to grad school. Here's a proposal. I'm going to work 20 hours a week, and I'm going to give you the same result. Are you cool with that? They were cool with that, if that makes sense. On the day-to-day side, from being an executive, I purposely chose, this is just me now, I'm not saying it works for everybody, but I purposely chose not to necessarily be in positions where I was in leadership of people, because people require your time. It's a fact. People require your time. So where I was a required leader on the military side up to being a lieutenant colonel, from a consulting perspective, what I wanted to do was be in roles where I could get outcomes, but also have a balance of other things that I needed to get done. So to the detriment of my upward mobility, I took roles where I knew, listen, I can just kind of manage my day. Some days I'm going to work till 2:00. Some days I might have to work till 10:00, but it's still going to give me the time to go focus on all these other entrepreneurial things that I need to focus on, because I knew that the corporate thing wasn't going to be with me until I was 80 years old. But the entrepreneurial stuff was going to be with me until I was 80 years old. You know what I mean? Yeah, definitely.
So, I have made those very conscious choices over time. And it was like making little deposits over time. And man, now that it's compounding like nobody's business, to my benefit and my family's benefit and those that I try to help.
No, and I know that you are able to help a lot of people that are especially in the corporate world. And you talked about another thing that I'd love for you to expand on a bit, because, and I think that a lot of times when we're in the corporate role, we forget about this, right? And this is also making that bridge between you're working a W-2 or you're a full-time employee, and you still feel like that's the only thing that you can do because you've depended on the stock market. And you guess every 6 or 7 years, you kind of start all over, right? Because you have to make sure that, and you're getting the advice typically that, hey, listen, just wait it out. You're going to have to, you're going to get dollar cost averaging and all these kinds of things. And eventually the market's going to come back, right? And so for those people that are trying to figure out, like, how do I actually not have to depend 100% on my employer, meaning that that's my main source of income, and this whole kind of every 6 or 7 years, I'm going to have to start all over. Like, you and I both know what it's like, but maybe talk to that person today that's thinking that, and like, what can they do to get off of that proverbial hamster wheel that's just going around and around?
Yeah. So to that, I will answer that people think for some reason, I'm just generalizing, but people think for some reason you need to have, I don't know, tens of millions of dollars to be financially free. You just don't. You don't. You are financially free to the extent that you have passive income or some other kind of income that meets your daily expenses. And for many people, those daily expenses could be $2,000, $3,000, or $4,000. So what I encourage people to do, like the people that I coach now, what we work on is, okay, what are your daily expenses? Great. What is the number you need? And I mean passive income, not income that is requiring your time to go get the income. True passive income. What is the amount of deals?
Sorry that I'm stopping you there, because this is such an important concept. And this is something when I play Cash Flow 101 with people, it's the concept of passive income. And so will you just please help people to understand? Because I know that I go on and say it, and I know that we have a lot of new people that are maybe listening to us for the first time. But when you say passive income, what do you mean? And can you give us an example versus active income, which is what most people are doing all the time?
Passive income is the holy grail, period. Period. Mailbox money, whatever you want to call it, stuff that shows up that does not require your time. Passive income is that income that is divorced from your time to generate it. Okay, so assets typically create passive income or some kind of intellectual property. It could be a book you wrote. It could be music that you've created. But in my case, it's real estate. And what happened for me, and I feel like I said this already, but I bought all these single family homes. I systematically paid them off over time, and they were creating more passive income, well and above the passive income, well and above my expenses. So since that time, I've never worried about the basic needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I haven't worried about that since 2014, especially because I've never increased my standard of living. I've never, I paid off my home where I live, and I never said, oh, because I can technically afford it, I'm going to go out and get the $2 million house or something. No, I still drive my 05 car, which I love. I'm still in my very humble home, which I love. But I have freedom of things. So if I go back to the previous statement, you don't need a lot. You just need more passive income coming in than your expenses. And the best way I can give you an example, I had a buddy of mine who was in the condo investing business with me back in the 2000s. He bought 4 condos. I went crazy and got up to like 35, but he bought 4. Okay. Mm-hmm. They 4 generally appreciated. He sold one, paid off one of them, and then systematically used his W-2 income over a 10-year period to pay the rest of them off. You know why? Because now he has $4,000 to cover his living expenses. And what he did that was so smart, he moved. He moved to Thailand because he knew that $4,000 in Thailand is living like a king. Yeah. So he is still, to this day, this is 2011 he moved. He's still to this day a bartender because he enjoys it. He enjoys the social aspects. He got married. He has a couple of kids and all those types of things. So when you're saying, what can people do to not be beholden to their W-2? Figure out what that number is that you need on a monthly basis, and then reverse engineer from there how many real estate deals you need to do. It could literally just be 2 or 3 real estate deals, and then you have enough passive income to cover your expenses. Just stop putting additional obligations on what you do, and then you'll have a much better opportunity of breaking that cycle.
Yeah, and I know I did want to come back to that because I know you mentioned that is some of the things that you do. You were giving us a concrete example as to how you're helping your students today to be able to really figure out, okay, well, what is it that I really need to do? Love the geographical arbitrage that you, that as an example that you showed, because it really is about how do you define the lifestyle and the life that you really want to live. Like, don't be beholden to somebody else's definition of success, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. And you know, I mentioned the geographic arbitrage stuff. I want to be very clear because it's very easy to throw out like Portugal or, you know, Thailand or Bali, where something could be very inexpensive. But there are inexpensive things right here in the United States as well. You know how beautiful coastal Alabama is, but no one would ever think about it because New York is popular, LA is popular, Washington, D.C. is popular. Yet you could go have a lifestyle down there of a king and queen and have your kids being on the coast every day, on beaches every day, or having an outdoor lifestyle. But we are choosing to have the lifestyle that costs $15,000 a month, right? So if you do that, then you are going to be beholden to that W-2 job for quite some time.
Yeah. And that's unless you figure out ways to actually create more capital, right? Or more currency, as I like to call it. So, and there's one thing that I just want to come back because I would love your, just hopefully it's a confirmation more than anything else. When you say mailbox money, because this is one of the things that I constantly talk about is people say, yeah, well, you know what? It looks like every single month that my statement is going up and up and up. And the difference between, yes, seeing your statement, which is on either the stocks that you're investing in or the 401k or the IRA, is that is actually, you can't touch that money. Like until a predefined date without some type of getting your hand slapped. What you're talking about when you say passive income is whether or not you want it, the money is going to show up in your mailbox, in your bank account, and there's no questions asked, right? It's because I think that when we talk about passive income, sometimes people think, well, yeah, it looks like my statement's going up every month and and this and that, but you can't really, that's not money you're actually accessing.
No, you can't touch it. And I do both, Billy. I do both. I do real estate to live on right now. And then I follow the Buffett method because I know that the stock market in general, the US economy will double every 7 to 10 years if you just leave it alone. I don't pay attention to the mess that goes on. But when I say mailbox money or electronic deposits to your account, which is more of the reality nowadays, I mean, I own a certain number of, let's say, units or I still to this day have 18, I like saying this, I still have 18 paid off single family homes. The families that live in those homes in general have been with me for on average about 10 years. I know them all. I love them dearly. I do not self-manage anything. I hired I think I have like 4 or 5 property managers to take care of it. But every month there are rent checks that show up. Okay. That is the gross income from that family. I provide them a service. They pay me for that service. It pays off the expenses related to that particular asset. And then the rest is mine. I want to say that again. The rest is mine. So there are months now where I haven't looked at the bank accounts for 60, 90 days. I just haven't had time to, but those accounts have piled up and that's money I can go live on or reinvest in something else. That is what I mean by mailbox money. And I'm talking $1,000 here, $900 there, $1,600 here, $2,200 from something more expensive that I have in DC. That stuff matters. And you know the funny thing? People who are in the real estate game, they will take their single families in certain cases and trade them up to go get the bigger stuff, which I totally understand. But I've never done that because the original set of homes that I worked my butt off for in the 2000s and the 2010 timeframe, they give me enough to live. So I said, I'm going to protect that. I'm never going to touch it. I'm going to allow that money to be the money that I live on. And anything I get from my W-2 or from any other investment that I do, I reinvest that stuff for more legacy down the road. But I took the time to figure out what I needed from a passive income number on a monthly basis. I used my W-2 to go get it. And once I had it, I protected it. I will not let it go because I know that at any time, hey, if I'm decide to retire from W-2 world, or if I'm let go from W-2 world, because we're all expendable in one way or the other, I'll be fine. So that's what I kind of want to get to your listeners is like, okay, you can focus on the title of where you're trying to get to, but focus on the passive income number that you can create for yourself leveraging your income, get it, and then your family is secure and protected for the future.
So I love that. And really at the end of the day, it's like you said, you're doing these things to have some type of an end goal. And if that is protecting your family and your legacy, this is another way to be able to do that. So
100%.
I want to start to pivot a bit, Maurice, to get us to talk about Quattro Capital, what you're doing, how you're helping positively impact others' lives. But before we go there, I want you to think about, and I know you didn't mention this before, but this is something that you had an opportunity to play sport at university. You did mention that you had the opportunity, or you were full-time in the Air Force. Mm-hmm. You also mentioned that you were leading teams in your role at Accenture. You're not doing that anymore by choice. Mm-hmm. And so you've had 3 different experiences in your life that had you in team roles, leadership roles. And I would love for you to help us understand, what did those experiences help you to understand that you're now being able to leverage to provide value through Quattro Capital to other new team members?
Yeah, that's fair. And, I ran teams, whether on the military side or on the corporate side, I've run teams as large as 300, 400 people. So I have been there and done that, to include in overseas environments and wartime environments, diplomatic environments with vice presidents and presidents of countries. So I've had a wealth of experiences across the professional landscape. One of the biggest things that it taught me was that leadership is a service. When you are a leader, you are being of service to the people who are technically within your responsibility. It can be leading from the front for sure. It can be directing people for sure. But in everything, I've had the benefit in everything that I've ever done from a professional perspective. I have been, my job is to help people succeed or to help a customer improve something. So if I tie that now back to Quattro Capital, what's happening is, and it gets meshed into my belief that we are put on this planet to thrive, not to exist. This notion of just like scarcity and paycheck to paycheck and all those types of things, I don't like it. I think people are put on this planet to really enjoy themselves. So when I started Quattro Capital with my partners, and we started forming it in late 2019, it became official in early 2020. We created our 4 pillars: people, property, profits, and philanthropy, because everything that I wanted to do is exactly what we're talking about, which is help people figure out how to generate passive income, help them how to get their own version of my 5 freedoms: financial, time, geographic, freedom of purpose, and relationships. And you can really, like, when people take control of their financial makeup and psyche and go after assets that are not tied to their employer, if you will, they just gain so much more confidence and understand where they are going. So I have used Quattro Capital, the Quattro Capital platform, for that. So if there are people who want to invest, generate passive income, create legacy for their kids. I can think of one person that I'm helping now. She's in her lower 70s. She wants to create legacy for her grandkids. I love it, man, because I have become very well versed on how to take dollars, if you will, and send those dollars out to come back with 3 more dollars. And that frees people up. So the leadership experiences help me from that perspective. I'm just here to help people.
Yeah, I love that too. So you're here to be able to help people to serve and also thrive. And I think that it speaks a lot to your character. It speaks a lot to the things that you continue to not just say, more importantly, the things that you continue to do, whether you're serving even today, and maybe it's a non-leadership role, but you continue to serve your clients during your day job. You continue to stay a part of the military in a new role to continue to serve. You continue to be a member of your active community through the police force to be able to serve. And now with Quattro Capital, you and other team members have now been able to create your 4 pillars, and you are continuing to serve other people, probably a lot of people that we're talking about now that are in highly paid W-2 jobs, and even people that, all over the spectrum, as well as, just give us an example, someone who's already in their retirement age. So it's a servant's heart, man. And that is one of the things that is really fantastic. And also, going out on a limb, because you've done so many things, we were talking about this in the beginning, you've traveled to so many different places. You have a family background that you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth, but at the same time, you and I both know what it's like to sit down with a C-level executive of a multi-billion dollar company. And I'm going to guess here that you probably know what it's like to speak to someone who is on their last $50, or every single month they're trying to figure out how they make ends meet. And so being able to feel comfortable in those very extreme environments is something, when you have a servant's heart, you're just able to figure out how you can help the person that's in front of you and help them in a way that makes the most sense for them. Would that be fair? Yeah, Billy, you know what, man? And I'm glad you brought that up. And I can feel a little bit of emotion raising in me right now, because listen, I always had my parents. I grew up in a very stable household. We didn't have a lot, but I had my parents. Okay. But I grew up in the inner city. I've been all over the world. So I know no collar. I know blue collar. I know white collar, and I can roll with the best of them. I will lie down on the pavement with someone who's homeless to have a conversation with them, to try and help him or her get back on their feet. I can go into an office of a CEO who makes $50 million and tear his ass down if he's not a good person and he's treating his people with lack of respect. And maybe I think what I'm about to say comes from 3 places. 1, the way I grew up in Boston. 2, the fact that I was a military commander, and a federal agent. And 3, because I was a police officer, or I am a police officer. I am accustomed to running towards issues and danger. It's normal at this point. There is nothing that anybody in this world can tell me that I haven't. Well, no, I'm constantly learning, but there is nothing that will scare me in this world, right? Fear is false evidence appearing real. I believe that now. I'm scared of things, but fear is false evidence appearing real. The fact that I can go into multiple communities and have empathy because I have been within so many different cultures, and I know how to listen, man, I just think it gives me a leg up on everything. And then I have been told this, but I receive it, and now I say it. My authenticity comes out because I literally just want to help people in every possible way that I can. So, I can exist in those communities, and it's just been a blessing, man. It's interesting when you said that, how much I could feel it kind of affect me in the background, because it matters to me. Helping people matters. Yeah. No, and you can see that, you can feel that. I mean, every interaction I've ever had with you, it's something that stands out to me. So, so I mentioned in the beginning, and you just kind of really quickly touched on the 5 freedoms. Before because I do want to ask you about an inspiration in your life, but before we do that and then get ready to kind of wrap things up, I would love for you to help people understand how you've come about. Number one, what are the 5 freedoms that we talked about? Because I know that you're very, very big on this, and I think this will make a massive impact on people's lives. And if you can kind of just, I guess, quickly unpack a little bit of each one, so people get a real sense of how you've come to this and why you're so passionate about being able to share this with everybody else. 100%. Man, I talk about it so much now because I want people to absorb it. So I'll give it a run. So there's 5 freedoms. I have always operated under this premise. I just never knew how to articulate it. And I have a business coach, Trevor McGregor, who helped me kind of articulate what this is. The first one is financial freedom. We talked about that. More passive income than you have expenses. If you can just get over that hump, then the other 4 tend to get even easier. The second is time freedom. We only have a certain amount of time on this world. It's our only true asset is time, because it's the one thing we can never, ever get back. Once this conversation is over, Billy, and the 8 o'clock hour comes here locally, then we're done. So you can either create time, and you got to find ways to generate money for your life, because we need money to exist, but generate money without it being dependent on your time as a person. The third one is geographic freedom. Okay. I kind of got that from Tim Ferriss with his formula, freedom equals time plus mobility,
We just talked about the time. But the way you create geographic freedom is everything about what I do from a business and family perspective is mobile. I'm happy to be where I am in Maryland, but I've digitized my mail. I don't get mail anywhere. It comes to an online interface. All my businesses can be run from a cell phone and a computer. I don't buy a lot of commercial goods that will weigh me down. Chances are when my car finally times out, I'll probably use a zip car or something like that. I can get up, and my metric for it is, can anything that I'm doing, can I get up and pick up and go spend time with Billy in Barcelona and be there for 4 months with everything still operating? I want geographic freedom. I want the ability to move around because I have a beginner's mindset. The last two, freedom of purpose, we talked about it. A friend of mine who we went to high school together, she's an immigration rights attorney in California. She supports farmers immigration, farmer migrant worker rights. Okay. Mm-hmm. She has freedom of purpose because she loves what she does. Her father did it. Her father worked in concert with Cesar Chavez, and it has permeated through her family. And she asked me, but I don't have all this financial stuff. And I said, but you have freedom of purpose, my dear. And there are people who make $12 million who have no idea why they even exist on this planet. So freedom of purpose is a big deal. And then the last one, which is a little bit more complex, is freedom of relationships. I won't engage in anything that stops me from engaging in new relationships. So if a job if a job's making me work 15 hours a day and I can't get to other people and learn new things, I won't do it. I think toxic relationships that keep you away from people, it's something you got to consider. But as people, we need to expand. The way that we expand is by meeting, having new relationships and meeting new people. So those are my 5 freedoms. Those are how I've kind of constantly like reinvented myself and done new things. And now I'm doing real estate deals in Cyprus because I sought out a particular relationship so I could flatten the learning curve. But I didn't have anything barring me from making that relationship with my new friend and partner. So those are kind of the 5 freedoms. And it just has helped me hone in on what I spend time on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So when you can have that clarity of where you're spending your time on a day-to-day basis, I'm sure that you are feeling more fulfilled because you're doing the things that you really want to do. You're depositing your energy in the places that you get the highest return on 100%. Your 5 freedoms, and you're making the highest impact on the people's lives that you are a part of and and helping and serving on a day-to-day.
And I'm getting happier. That's the thing. I like it's starting to like snowball, especially because I feel like I'm being purposeful and helping people with their life. Man, I'm walking around with my chest up and my shoulders high, and because we're doing things that have meaning and purpose and honoring the time we have on this planet. So it's a good thing.
Awesome. Well, listen, man, nice to get those good things in. And before we kind of wrap up and get to the going along final 3, you've mentioned your parents a couple of times. You mentioned your father when you got started with real estate, and I know that they have been together for quite a while, and this is things that are important, right? And nowadays, when we have our parents in our lives, it's something that is really important and can be a source of inspiration. But maybe you could just tell us a little bit about how the impact from your parents has helped you to get where you are now, and will also be something that continues to help you move forward.
It's twofold. It really is twofold. And I think it is okay to say when your parents propelled you or held you back. Okay. So my parents propelled me because they always gave me a stable environment and imparted education on me as the most important thing. My dad didn't say, hey, you got to go be a lawyer or doctor. He just said, get your education. And once you've gotten your education, it's your option from there, what you do. So that was really important, what they did for me. But the other thing that they did was their money blueprint is very different than mine is. Their money blueprint was one of get the job, fight for the pension, chill at the house. My money blueprint built on that, which is create legacy for yourself and your family and for community, go after assets, collect those assets. I'm a big collector of assets because I expect to be impacting my kids kids. Because they gave me the foundation and the freedom to go figure out who I was as a person and encourage it, I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. So I thank them for not holding me back, for not saying, well, this is what you're supposed to be doing because this is what we did in our time. Nah, man, they totally encouraged me. Once I got my education,
Right.
They were like, from here, the decisions are yours and we support you to go out and do whatever it is that you want to do.
Thank you very much for sharing that part, because I think that's also something to it's an important part of each and every one of us. And like you said, there are times that it can help to move you forward, and sometimes at the same time it can keep you back for a while. And and at the end of the day, it comes down to the decisions that you make.
Yeah.
Right? It's about you, not necessarily about your environment 100%. Nope. Right.
Yep.
Wow. So, listen, so I guess now, Maurice, we're kind of at the point where I need to talk to you about the going long final three, man. So it's the last three questions before we wrap things up. I just want to keep talking to you forever, but I know you got things to do. We got things to do. So, listen, I like to kind of wrap up the show with the last three questions. And the very first of the last three of the going long final three, like we like to call them, is we started out with where you were in the United States in the beginning, in the DC area. And so I'd like to bring it back to Europe. And so you are a gentleman who is extremely well traveled. So I always love to know, because I'm over here in Europe, like, what is your favorite Europe? And you can only choose one. I got to tell you that in advance.
Okay.
What is your favorite European city that you've either visited already, and there's a high chance that you've done that, or is still on your bucket list to visit?
Oh man. It won't, the name is not going to come to me right away. It starts with a C. It's in southern Spain, and it's just across the Strait of Gibraltar from Cadiz. Yeah. Man, I want to go there. You know why? Because it's Spain.
Yeah.
Right? You got the Spanish.
Yeah.
You float across the water, and then you're in a Northern African culture, French speaking, Arabic speaking, whatever. I'm just fascinated by culture, and the fact that it's all in that one region. I got to get down there.
Okay, Cadiz. That's the first vote for Cadiz. That's awesome, man. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to let me know when you're over there.
I'll let you know when you're down there, brother.
Perfect. So the other thing has to do with, you had a lot of experiences in your life as well. And we've talked about that. And you can take a look at them, and most of the very successful people that I've spoken to, or actually all of them, have said, in their life, I've only had one mistake that I made. Maybe it wasn't one mistake. Maybe there were a lot of mistakes, or learning opportunities, or however you want to say it. But I guess I'm not so interested in the thing that you didn't do properly, right? But more or less, what is the lesson that you took away from that learning opportunity, mistake, that has helped you, that you would want to pay forward to somebody else, to the person that's listening to us right now?
I believe in falling forward or failing forward. I'm not scared. That first year when I was 23 years old, where I acquired those first 10 homes, I had no idea what I was doing. But it started this snowball effect of me not worrying about the consequences of making a mistake, but more so worrying about getting certain outcomes such that I can have my best life now. If I was worried about, I don't want to do that because I'm going to do it wrong, then I wouldn't have got into multifamily and closed on 20 multifamily complexes in the past few years, and 9 in the past 12 months. Yeah. If I was scared about falling forward, then I wouldn't be doing real estate development in the Mediterranean right now. And to be clear, I don't know necessarily what I'm doing. I am learning it as I go because it is a new skill that I have to bring into my arsenal. So that would be my advice to people, is fall forward, and also just either get a mentor or get someone who has done that before you, and it will go a lot better.
I love that. And I'm going to say two things. First one, hashtag, when you're talking about your development in Europe, hashtag teamwork makes the dream work. So you don't need to know it all, as you know. And the other thing is really about just following up on that. Fail fast, fail forward, and fail frequently, right? Because that's all part of the process. So I love that you said that. And you started out with one thing, and I always love to leave these conversations by being able to feed the brain, feed the mind. Sure. And so what is one book just one. It's probably like asking you which European city, but one book that you would also recommend to the Going Long family.
It would have to be Tim Ferriss, The 4 Hour Workweek. It would have to be, because it helped me automate my life and automate my business. Tim was not talking about working 4 hours a day or just working 4 hours a week. That's not what he was saying. What he was saying was getting more efficient at what you do, taking intermittent vacations all the time, not just 2 week vacation in summer, but like I would take 5-day long weekends every month and things of that nature. I automated my mail. I automated my business. It would be the 4 Hour Workweek for sure.
4 Hour Workweek. All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, wow. I told you this was going to be a fantastic conversation, broad ranging, especially for those individuals, right, that are listening to us now. You're a W-2 worker, you're in the military, you've got a family, and you want to give to your community. Maurice, you've got it all, man. So from being able to help us understand from your family background, having the opportunity to live overseas, how that impacted you, how that opened your mind, how you've had this learning mindset that you want to say, the beginner's mindset, to be able to continue to have that curiosity, to want to go out, to want to learn, to want to serve others. You've manifest this in your corporate life. You continue to manifest this even with Quattro Capital, how you're going out and you're positively impacting people's lives. You're impacting students' lives in terms of people that want to learn more about what it is that you're doing at Quattro Capital. And There are so many positive things. You even talked to us about your 5 freedoms, right? The financial, the time, the geographic, the purpose, and the relationship freedoms. And I know because of everything that you've helped to just give us today, that there are so many people that are running on the treadmill, that they're watching us on the video and they're thinking, yeah, but I need to know, how can I get in touch with you? I want to find out more about you. So help us understand, what is the best way for the Going Long family to connect with you, to learn more about you, and be able to get in touch with you, man?
I would love to connect. Freedom of relationships. I would love to connect, not only for people to learn from my mistakes and my successes, but also so I can learn from other people. LinkedIn is a good one. So I'm available at LinkedIn at just Maurice Philogène, first name, last name. Instagram, I'm very active on Instagram because I like the lifestyle aspect of where I'm headed, and I really espouse that. So you can catch me on Instagram, talk more lifestyle. I am very big on lifestyle design, as you can probably tell. And I tend to spend more time there on Instagram. But from a business perspective, for Quattro Capital, the website is www.thequattroway, QUATTROWAY, thequattroway.com. You can click on my big face there, and there's a link at the bottom to schedule a call. You can see what we got going on. And also kind of the journey that I've been on from a real estate perspective is articulated there. So folks can connect there as well.
All right. Love that. So you've given us the website, you've given us to follow you on Instagram and also on LinkedIn, and Philogène is Philogene. And we're going to include all of that in the show notes. So don't worry if you didn't write it down already, just go to the show notes. It's all going to be in there. So you can contact Maurice and his team, and definitely pick him up or take him up on his offer to be able to share your story with him. And also he'll be able to learn from you. I know that is something that he takes extremely seriously. And, Maurice, I'm just thrilled that you decided to invest your time with me.
Thanks, man.
With my Going Long family. This is something that is, I really want to say thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for taking the time and investing with us today, man. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. And anytime, you just let me know.
All right. Sounds great. And so for the Going Long family, I just want to also say to you, thank you very much for once again investing your time with Maurice and I today. Yeah. I mean, he left so many things, so many real clear-cut examples, sharing his story, and even giving of himself to be in touch with you. So, I want to also say you have a unique opportunity right now to also be that person that makes a positive impact on somebody else. So take today's episode and share it with 2 or 3 other people. Maurice has an amazing story that he's just shared with you. And I'm sure you know somebody who's in the corporate or who's in the military or is in the police force or is wanting to start their own business. And he's a wealth of experience. So be that person that impacts others' lives today. To share, like I said, 2 or 3 other people. And also Maurice and I would really love to know, what did you love about today's episode?
Yeah.
everything that he talked about. So feel free to write that down. Leave us a review. If you want to make it 5-star, we'll accept that as well. But we really want we really want the impact. We want the feedback from you. So what worked? What would you love to hear Maurice talk about in the next time he's here with us? And most importantly, go out, make it a great day, and I will be here waiting to welcome you back on the very next episode. So until then, thank you very much. Wow, don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long-distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.